I'm your host, John P. Comer, and today we have another brilliant-minded brother, guest OG, who will be co-hosting with me and chopping it up about his story. There's a lot I could say about this brother, but I think extremely highly of him. So I want to introduce you all to my brother, William Freeman, who is an activist and advocate for formerly incarcerated individuals.
I appreciate that.
My man.
The setup.
So we're here today, and usually I like to begin with introducing the guest through the steps that led up to your life, right? And so I know you were born in New York originally, and you moved down to Baltimore. You grew up in Baltimore, West Baltimore, is it? And, you know, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself from, your childhood, what you think, was made great impacts on your path in life.
So, I don't know. It's like you said.
You can start anywhere.
I could. I'm almost spared of people. But
teenage years.
I'm gonna go to childhood because that's how we got to Baltimore.
All right.
And then that's how I believe like that was the beginning of why I would be one to commit a crime with a handgun.
Okay.
So my uncle was murdered in New York, in Yonkers, New York, and we had just moved down here, but he had, again, reasons to believe like my mother needed to relocate. She did that, and then it wouldn't be long before, he would lose his life. He was murdered. So I think for me, and he was my father figure, my Uncle Michael. I didn't have dealing with my father. In fact, ironically, we are now just entering into conversations now. This is post 21 years of incarceration,
right,
and 18 years of living outside of prison prior to going in there. We're just now having conversations about things that I might have inherited from him and things that he can appreciate and praise about me. Like we just got there. I'm 42 years old.
Right.
So I don't know. It was a number of identity crises because I was that person who wanted to be accepted. Kind of like on the advertisement, I had put like this song. And I love this song. If you listen to the lyrics, I think this is exactly where I am, right, in this time, right, in my present. But he speaks about like I gave it all up for a fantasy, right? And my fantasy was just being accepted. I would have done almost anything for people to say I was one of them. So we moved down here, and it was first to Arbutus, Maryland. And anybody who knows about Arbutus in the 80s, we were the only black family on the block.
Yeah.
So that kind of, and I'm mentioning that to give context to why race and why being specific. I'm specific about race and politics.
Right.
For these reasons is that coming from New York, it was like a mosaic up there, right? It was patchwork. Nope, we didn't know we were black. And I don't know, I had heard the word nigga so much in a short period of time in Arbutus in the 80s, 84, 85. I'd heard nigga so much that me and my sister, we were desensitized to like what it meant. Playing football with the Arbutus Golden Eagles, my nickname was, Black Lightning. Again, like, right. And back then it was, and I remember us in practice, back in Pop Warner, you got the tape with your name on it. And like there was nothing wrong with me being called Black Lightning on the field.
You were fast. Or at least you were faster than.
And again, because now here I sit now as a college undergrad, and understanding with these undertones what they actually carry with them, what was being said to me back then, and I didn't know it, I know it now, was that people who looked like me are animals, right? And so we jump high and we run fast, right? Regardless of how fast we actually run, our intelligence is replaced by our barbaric nature, like we're beasts, right?
Right.
And so my nickname, of course, would be likened to, now look at that. I wasn't even an animate object. I was like likened to lightning, right? And then black lightning at that.
Right.
That's not even a reality,
Right.
I've never seen black lightning.
Right.
But
what did that do mentally to you?
well, again, because at that time, mind you, I'm skateboarding, I'm trying to get in the skate. I'm trying to look like what I'm around, right? I'm trying to fit in, and it was the hardest thing. I think Malcolm X said it in his book, and he said this on the train. When confronted with other black folks on the train that he was on working, they asked him what was wrong with him, and he understood something that they didn't. It's like, we'll always be niggas, no matter what we do inside of this system, right? We will always be, seven sons or, underclass folk, shadows.
Sure.
And I think for me, looking back on it now, it made me start to see myself as an outsider no matter where I went.
Okay.
And so I struggled to make friends. I struggled to have real relationships. Didn't do a lot of spending the night over people's houses and stuff like kids do.
Sure.
I didn't do it. I actually spent a lot of time when I could find them in woods or with animals or, snakes. I used to, all these things, right? Like I could relate to what couldn't judge me. At least I couldn't understand they was judging me. Dogs. Always had a dog. I've always had some other wild animal. And I was embarrassed about that being known later on. Once we would move from our beauties, we moved to Woodlawn.
Right.
And Woodlawn was like middle class, lower middle to middle class area in Walden Circle is where we moved to. And it was just the opposite. It was black. So now I was having to learn that I didn't skateboard and wear skid Z's like the baggy pants back in the day, right?
Right.
And spray paint. That now I had to learn how to play basketball, fight, be willing to fight. I come from as a kid running from everything to having to get scared of stuff to go head at it. Like I'm afraid of it, now I'm gonna go to it. Yeah. And recklessly. Yeah. And that kind of like was the making of me, like it confused me.
Yeah. And what age was that? What age range?
So I want to say I was about 13. Right. So I went from never missing a day in school, never being suspended, right? None of those things up until around 8th grade in Woodlawn Middle, where I ended up in that year. I think I was suspended 6 times for fighting. Yeah. And because at this point my father had moved back into the house, like we were all in the same house, but again, like a lot of black fathers, he was of old school, disconnected from his own emotions. So he was in the house, he was physically present, but emotionally absent. So I didn't have that to go back to. And my mom, on the other hand, was tasked with 2 things, right? Helping to get him out of the hole, economically, get him out of the hole and on his feet, and on one regard, and keeping him happy, and then not having me be a burden for him, is what it translates into. So, I want to say at that point right there, I'm realizing that I'm gonna have to do something really big to get people's attention, and I want people's attention. Because it was something I lacked for so long, right?
Was it just attention, or was it respect, or did you feel that they were one and the same?
To me, I didn't see the way we would learn later on around 16, 17 to cover up fear with respect. Because I knew what I wanted. I wanted people to, like, get out of my way when I came. I wanted people to have a fear of me, right? Because I had one of everybody else. I had a fear of everybody else. And so what did I want? I wanted somebody to feel what I felt. Sure. Kind of the reason how like bullies bully other people. Sure. Victims of bullies go on to become bullies themselves in a lot of instances, right? Sure. So if I be honest, we had the neighborhood group, and my thing was, I'm gonna be the one with the gun. Now, mind you, at this point, I had not been shot. I didn't have any of that going on, but the gun gave me exactly what I was looking for the minute somebody realized I had it, right?
Yeah.
And it was that center stage.
Yeah.
It was that power.
Yeah.
It felt like power. I felt like, again, by the definition given by the Panthers, the ability to act on an object to get it to perform in a desired fashion.
Yeah.
I believe the gun did that for me.
Sure.
My words back then didn't do it because I didn't have words like I have them now. My size, I was undersized, I was small, I wasn't from here.
And that undersized is hard to believe.
Yeah, facts.
I don't know. Everyone who knows William know he ain't no small dude.
Right.
But
I had a growth spurt.
You obviously had.
I was a string bean. I had a growth spurt. I had a growth spurt in prison, and I was happy for it. I was happy for
Bro,
it.
looked like a small forward for the Washington Wizards or something.
Man, I hit the prison system, eating people's bread, beans. Yeah, I knew I needed to bulk up to at least sustain.
All right, but we ain't got there yet. That's my fault. All right, so the gun. People knew you had the gun. This is around what, 13, 14, 15?
Around 14, 15 years old.
Right.
Like literally, like every single thing.
What
that
kind of
came
gun
up.
was it?
The first gun I owned was a 32. And we owned it.
You had bullets?
We had bullets. All that stuff was easy to get.
Yeah.
We had bullets most times held in a sandwich bag.
Yeah.
We ain't have it, like today,
right.
Like people carry guns with holsters. No, we ain't have all that.
Right.
We had a 32, I remember it, bent barrel, and it used to skip.
All right.
And I vaguely remember being in the woods with a couple friends, and then us shooting it in the air, and they click, 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 boom. And then us having to move the bullets to where the empty shell casing was, right, to hope that it skips in that same pattern. But quickly though, that gun, no one else wanted to take that gun home. I didn't want to part with it, so I gladly took it home, and I took care of it. I shined it.
It was yours.
Moved it around. What it was like, it was a way.
Yeah.
It was a way. I didn't know then. It was a way. Everything I dreamed of, it was a way that I could get it. Was with that. It also gave me a false sense of courage. This was before the alcohol, before the drugs. Like, the gun was intoxicating to the point where I remember being a kid and leaving my bedroom and going into the bathroom to shower or whatever, and having to take the gun with me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like I was carrying it in my dip or anything like that. Whatever way I could get it past my mother's bedroom and into the bathroom, where in the mirror, I would perform with it. I would have it in my hand. I would point it at the mirror. I would spin the chamber.
Yeah.
I was doing all that. I would mug at myself in the mirror, and I was trying to see the way other people saw you.
Yeah.
Because what I saw without that type of power was an afraid individual who was trying to be more Baltimore and was really from New York in a time when New Yorkers was getting slaughtered in Baltimore. Right? So that's the backdrop to that. You know what I mean? So I was quickly trying to relearn slang in that time. The way I moved, the way I walked, and I being pimp, working for people on the block and not getting money, but being told like, you my man, my little man, and that being enough.
Yeah.
Like me feeling compensated because big man with the money and all the prestige with the name, right, calls me his little man.
Yeah.
And I remember that feeling like a type of currency back then.
Yeah.
And I could use it in some spaces, like, yeah, that's my man. Yeah, I'll be down there with so-and-so.
Yeah.
Mind you, I'm down there with so-and-so, and at best, I might get a couple $100 or half and half in the chicken box. And willing to put it all on the line to be a part of that setup. So
14, 15, you're walking around with the gun, you're gaining some type of confidence because of the gun. Does that gun encourage you, the power of that gun, does that encourage you to actually look for something to start with somebody where you're just ready to do that, and you're hustling a little bit, you know, maybe getting a little bit of change. So what led to the point that you decided to use that gun? What led up to that? Outside of what we already know, you know.
And for me, it was the seeing of two individuals murdered, seeing it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean seeing it like coming up and there's a body covered in a sheet. I'm like seeing the dispute that led up to it.
Yeah.
And then seeing it happen.
Yeah.
And then everybody breaking out the block and then coming back and then like, damn, that's yo, right? So between that and then being shot myself, right? Like after I got shot, it was a no-brainer. Somebody was gonna get shot, right?
Yeah.
In my mind. And I didn't know it then, but when I look back and I unpack my life, because everything was a reason. Anything was a reason. I mean, honestly, it could be, and I gotta be honest, you know, full disclosure, because I don't live this way today, right?
Sure.
But I remember being told what to do inside of the house by my mother or father, and while I didn't point the gun at them, I can remember like being in the bedroom and having a gun on the bed and like walking back and forth from the window to the door, ironically the same way I would walk in the jail cell from the window to the door, and collecting my thoughts like, man, they keep playing with me, they don't fear me, they don't know I'm in here, right? As a kid. And that's my mother, that's my real mother and my real father, much less people in the street.
Sure.
There was a situation, everybody drunk as a kid, everybody's been drinking, and, you know, individual put his hands on me, mind you, not having the heart back then to stand, you know, stand and fight someone bigger than me.
Sure.
I remember the speed, and I think I even was holding my breath, like the speed that I ran to go get it. And the minute I got it, like the conviction I had with myself that I was okay with everything that comes next.
There was no talking you out of that.
This
no reverse.
This is what I was born to do, like feeling like that.
That's what you
and then
felt like.
walking like my feet, like I had concrete
Yeah.
blocks on me to get back there, like walking like, yeah. And feeling like, man, this is it. This is it, right? And to get there and the individual not be there, only to walk off again in the dark and feeling disappointed because I couldn't even get that right. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't even get right what was right in my hand. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now, mind you, like the gun for me became a part of my dress, like a lot of people in and around the city of Baltimore.
So do these memories of your teenage years, does it seem like it wasn't that long ago, or does it seem so long ago?
Now?
Yeah, like now.
Eons.
Yeah.
Light years.
Is it vivid still? Or
No.
It's not?
No, it gets vivid around conversations with people that were there.
Yeah.
Which is probably why I like, you know, I'm intentional about who I put myself around.
Sure.
For those reasons, because I still have triggers, and that's one of the things that I learned about myself is my triggers. Like,
Sure.
What is it that reopens traumatic experiences for me?
Yeah.
And then how do I either keep a grip on those or avoid it?
So, and from that experience, from the experience that led to you going to prison, you were 18, and you served 21 years?
Oh, nearly 21, day for day. So it's like 20 years, 9 months, 10 months, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And so when you entered into the prison at that young age of 18, when you entered in, were you feeling like I did what I was supposed to do, or was it? And
it didn't even take that long because, you know, I had shot an individual and fired the gun one time, and it was the boom that brought me back to reality. Like, I had that moment with myself. In fact, someone else had to tell me, like, yo, go ahead, yo, go, because I was frozen in fear. Like, not only did I know, like, damn, the hell, I couldn't take it back.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I remember that night, taking a whole handful of volumes and like drinking granddad alcohol and just trying to like get numb and outside of myself enough where I could get outside to get away. Like, cause I was subletting an apartment at that time, in East Baltimore, and so I just remember like I could not turn that doorknob until I couldn't damn near feel it. And so it was like the minute it happened, it's not what I wanted. Again, it was the repetitive showing off, trying to fit in, wanting to be somebody, want people to fear me, wanting people to stop playing with me, right? Because in playing with me, I felt like people didn't fear me enough. Because I watched the way these same folks had pics with other people, and it angered me to a point of being outside of what I would normally do. Like, that's not who I am. And it is, in fact, something I did. It's not who I am.
And so, when did you come to terms? So, like, all right, the gun goes off, boom. You say immediately when the boom went off, it was like, damn.
Okay, so full disclosure, I'll do that, right? For the sake of being real, right? In case somebody's watching this and they potentially live in this false reality, right? Man, I'll end up walking to an area where my pregnant son's mother is standing and asking me as I'm walking toward her right after this, was that you? And so this is like literally like I just came from that and I'm walking to what I'm supposed to be getting ready for, is welcoming his life in the world. And completely out of my mind in terms of I still like, have to really think about this sometimes. Like, how did I even get from there to walking toward her and hearing her say that and then watching her collapse on the ground and then just feeling like, man, I wanted to go back. I wanted to hit a rewind button. But I couldn't. And so I took off running into the dark. And I ran for years, man. I ran in my head. I ran for years from that.
So you enter into the prison system at 18. And obviously, there was a lot of growing, reflecting, redemption that started behind the wall.
That didn't start immediately.
Right. Yeah. So when did you get to that point that you realized?
I would learn later on that I would learn through study like the frontal lobe of the brain doesn't fully develop until you're around 25. And of course that's controlling for the use of drugs and alcohol, music, and all these other external stimuli that can tell you what you think, what to think, right? But I want to say it was around year 5, 6, somewhere. I just remember laying in the bed and feeling like I was laying in the bed looking at my screen 17. And the screen 17, for anybody who don't know, it was the sheet of your diminution, the days that you got deducted from your sentence from the beginning, your good conduct credits, and then your educational, whether you were in school, the days that you get deducted, your industrial, whether you were working, or your special project, whether you were a part of some special thing that needed to be done, like painting or cleaning the jail for a special visitation, right? And I remember looking at, reading this and seeing that, one, I had the lifer flag, and two, like my parole date.
So hold on. You had the lifer flag. That means that you were expected to spend life in prison?
No. So at by the time I'm looking at this form, right, I had life plus 20 years, all suspended, but 35 years without the possibility of parole.
Okay.
And I say that without the possibility of parole part, while it's not in my papers, it's exactly what goes on in Maryland.
Okay. So
I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this and I'm looking at my expected parole date, right? My first expected parole date in 1999, 2000, 2001, when is this? I'm looking at this around like 2003, 2004, and it's 2020 or something. I don't know, 26, 7, one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, like I'm coming into this way of feeling about myself, because at this point I don't have a gun, right? And now I'm realizing I can fight because I'm having to fight in the joint, and I'm realizing that the people I was trying to fit in with ain't that fancy. Because I'm watching some guys come in and out the joint, and when they come to prison, they one way, and when we go home and we get the gun and we get the fake facade and all that, we're another way. And so I got to watch that and see that repeatedly, because I wasn't going home, others were, right? People with shorter sentences were in and out. And I'm literally watching how people are transforming themselves to come in and be humble and meek and go to church service and then go home and go back to thuggish and ruggish. And I'm like, wait, nah. I really can hold my own. I'm really willing to hold my own, right? I'm really willing to do these things that I've done and be accountable for them. I went to court and told the judge, like, nah, Your Honor, I did this. Made a statement on myself. 3 people could have been implicated, were not implicated. Made a statement on myself, sent myself to prison. You know, it was a senseless act, and it was for nothing. At the end of it, I didn't get a badge of honor. I don't get to brag, and this individual don't get to grow old in his family.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so, I'm laying there and I'm looking at this paper and I'm realizing, like, man, I don't want to die like this.
So is this, were you transferred during those?
For sure. So I've been to four prisons in the state of Maryland.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Was one of them
twice? So
was one of them Jessup?
I've been to Jessup, Maryland Correctional Institution, Jessup. Yeah.
And that's where they had death row inmates serving there.
So that's JCI, and that's called, out back. I was at MCIJ, which is behind JCI. I've never been in JCI.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So within that time of you being in prison, you didn't come in immediately. Maybe maybe you weren't snatched up by some older heads to kind of guide you. But I do know that somewhere along the way,
for sure,
you became a leader in a very positive way, spiritually, as well as just being a good brother inside of that. When did that start to happen for you? And what made that transformation? And what position did you hold as like a religious, spiritual leader?
And so, so all of that, like the groundwork for that was actually laid before I had that aha moment.
Okay.
So I know that the aha moment I had, where I'm realizing like I wanted something else, right?
Right.
It kind of happened because of elders, right?
Right.
Prison was different when I went to prison, so it was still very much structured by seniority, and there was no gangs in the sense that what we know of them today, right? There was the Muslims, there was a few organizations, most of which are not gangs by any, proper definition. And so when we got on the tier, we were young. And I remember 3 of us being the youngest on the tier and thinking we was going to do whatever. So we were smoking cigarettes in the day room. Mind, y'all don't even smoke, but I'm smoking because the guys I'm with smoke, right? So we smoking. I got asthma and I'm smoking, right? But we smoking, and the old timer came to us and said, man, y'all not supposed to smoke in the day room, right? And so we like, man, you better go ahead. Mind you, we don't know cold-blooded killing. Never see the dead light again, right? We don't know none of this. And so we dismiss them. Now, mind you, they got community, the old timers, because they got a system. They got things going on the tier. They are paying for lawyers off of an economy that they got to keep going and keep it from getting knocked off at the same time. And we're threatening that by potentially forcing the administration's hand on the shakedown because we doing the dumb stuff, right? And I'll never forget, man, honestly, and I'd be lying to say something different. They came at us, man, old guys with buckets, with things in buckets. Like you're carrying shower buckets, but they not getting in the shower.
Right.
And they came to us and they offered us a very easy fix, right? It's 3 ways this is gonna go. Y'all gonna stop on your own, right? and realize that it's too much at stake, or y'all gonna go ahead and remove yourselves, check in, get off the TED, or y'all gonna go get your shit and we gonna go to war. It was like, wait. Now I'm watching because, like, they all had on boots bone tight, right? They all had their shirts tucked in. Like, you could tell. Us, on the other hand, you know, shoes untied, half cocked, twisting a little dumb naughty bush, like we know something. No guns though, right? And most of them that came up there that day are what we consider jailhouse legends, right? And they gave us that ultimatum, and it wasn't a whole lot of yelling. They didn't do no yelling. They was talking, but they was dead serious. And I want to say constantly having that kind of interaction, and they was still forgiving, right? Because I remember attending a class after that on a TED man by the name of Mr. Swallow. Beautiful, beautiful man. I remember attending the class on the TED that he was teaching, and he was teaching about like how to do a bit. And I remember going to that class to the scrutiny and humor of my little group, like the little young guys I was with. I was young. And for me, that was the beginning. Going to that class was the beginning, because I was opening myself up to admit I don't know and allowing myself to be led. So I was becoming a good follower. So
I want to be clear for the people who might not know certain lingo. A bit. He was teaching the class on how to do a bit. How to do time, how to serve a sentence. Because it's a method to it, right? If you mean to make it out of there with everything, all your, extremities and your mind intact, there's a way to do a bit. Right. And so he was going over these very basic principles. And to me, back then, they weren't basic. Now, when you think about it, who wouldn't know that? Because I'm older now. I wasn't older then, right? So he's like, don't borrow anything from anybody. If you don't have it and you're still breathing, you're just fine. And back then, that didn't make sense, because as kids, we wanted any and everything we thought of. Right. And it wasn't in there. Right. But it could get in there, right? Most of it. Right. At what cost, right? Don't get caught up in the television in the day room. Right. Like, and again, when you think about it, there's one TV in that institution. It was two, one upstairs, one downstairs. There's two TVs in the day room, which means that whoever is controlling the TV has the power hold, right? And so there's a whole list of politics that go around the TV, the telephone, right? And if you're not a part of that collective and willing to put your life on the line when the new group come along to challenge you, don't worry about the TV, right? Don't wear shower shoes, flip-flops in the day room. Basic stuff, right? And now it's basic. Back then, I'm like, but why? And because we didn't know. Right. Like, again, I told you I had a father in the house who was physically present and emotionally absent. He wasn't handing me life. Right. I was more like, I don't know, a nuisance to him, right? And he was telling things to me and wasn't contextualizing them in a way where it made sense. And I didn't know back then I needed to just take it. Sure. You know what I mean? So we on the TED, and I'm taking this class, and that led up to him assigning, after I attended the class 3 times, I remember this like it was yesterday, because he gave me this book, and it was super thin, and I felt like, oh, he just disrespected me. He thinks I'm stupid. He gave me a book, and it was about that thick. James Allen, As a Man Thinketh. And he said, for every section in the book, I want you to write me at least 20 sentences of what it means to you, right? I had the book for 2 weeks and hadn't turned in any writing at the class. The class was once a week. I hadn't turned in any writings at the class when he pulled me up and said, hey, look here, Slim. Just how he said it, too. And I say this because now when I find myself talking to my son, and I'm not telling him in any soft way, I know it doesn't mean it doesn't have love in it, right? But he said, look here, Slim, this is what I need you to do with me, right?
go get my shit and bring me my shit. Because you ain't worthy. You ain't ready yet, nickel. And I'm like, man, Mr. Swallow. He like, don't Mr. Swallow nothing me, nickel. Right? And so I told the officer, like, I need to go to the cell. I went and got his book and came back with his book.
Did you read it?
Now mind you, no, skimmed through it, played with it, held it up. And I didn't know it was in rotation, but they had a whole underground book passing process with books back then.
Right.
And so they were serious about what was in these books, right? I would learn later this is the way like the ancestors communicated. Was through their writings that they left. I didn't know that then. But I go get the book and I come back and I say, man, I lied. I said, Mr. Swallow, man, I read the first part, man. What if I sit down right here and write something? He said, all right, you got until lock time with my book. Now, mind you, I knew I had to write something because what's at stake is not necessarily the information in the book, but it's the relationship with this man that I'm feeling like it's finally something I've been missing. A role model, one worth following, one that's going to teach me how to grow up. And I'm ready to lose that because I'm not doing this assignment. Anyway, I sat there and I wrote out some stuff and he said to me, man, you need to read more. And from then on, I constantly, when I used to be in that cell, this is now throughout the duration of my bit, I read, right? But I remember days where I wouldn't read anything and I would hear Mr. Swallow say, you doing exactly what they put you in here to do. You losing time and losing your mind all at the same time. And he used to always say that, don't lose your mind and lose time. If you lose time, build your mind. And if you get time back, run with your mind. Like he used to say this stuff, and again, very concise man. He didn't say a lot of words. And so the book he gave me, James Allen, as a man thinking, what I would learn later on is that it's a concise, easy to read book, written comprehensively according to an individual's level of awakening, right? You know, I would learn that many moons later, man. And so it's the beginning of a Mr. Swallow and did a Eddie Conway and a Gerald Dent, aka Mr. Soldier, and countless men. Glenn Lewis, Hakeem, Abdul Malik. It was meeting these men and then knowing like Timmy Poole, Abu Bakr, and knowing that these men at that time wouldn't ever get a chance. I'm crying about a parole date that's 2 decades away, and these men ain't crying at all about no date.
And Mr. Conway has actually made it out to the other side. Just
about every name I just named actually made it out. Now, as a result of like different issues, faulty jury instructions, stuff like this.
So so you made it into leadership, but let's you were an email inside the prison, but you made it out, right? And you were released into some programs. So what kind of programs received you when you came home, and what was your thought process upon being released? Like, where were you at mentally?
So I gotta mention Goucher. Because that was pivotal. Like
Goucher College.
Yep. Yeah. So Goucher College has a division that goes into Jessup. MCIJ, Maryland Correctional Institution Jessup, called Goucher's Prison Education Partnership. So basically, like professors that teach at the main campus in Towson, all throughout the week at night, come into the institution with the same curriculum in whole classes. And so the reason why I gotta mention that is because there's this one professor, Dr. Martin Schuster. Professor Schuster wrote a letter put up against my file. Now, mind you, we talking 20 years later. I was really talking about the beginning of getting into education and learning. And then fast forward 20 years, right? I had gated TV up for 4.5, almost 5 years, no TV at all. And was like digesting books, right? And so
5 years of no TV.
Almost 4 years
Straight
no
books.
TV. Straight books.
Writing,
Arabic, English, Spanish, no books. No TV.
Brilliant.
And but it was because I started seeing the truth of TV. But that's another talk. I remember going to court for the 8505, which is the mental health and hygiene drug treatment, mental health. And mind you, the lawyer I had represented Ali Ruhan, may Lord grant him a spacious grave. Gerald Blackshear was his government name before he changed his name. And she helped get him out of prison. And when I met her, she was hearing about I was sharing with her the things I was doing in college and sharing some of my writings with her. She essentially represented me for nothing.
Right.
And she told me she had represented somebody before with a violent crime on a drug treatment case. Very rare, rarely happens. Anyway, this one letter that Schuster wrote, he wrote a paragraph in there where he said, I believe that William Freeman, if given a chance, could compete at any Ivy League school in the country, and I've taught at 4. Right? I still have this letter because I remember the way the judge's copy was highlighted and annotation in the boundaries, right, in the margins. And I had a folder this thick, but he had one letter on top of the folder and left the bench twice with the letter. Like, wait, hold on, let me. And he asked my lawyer and the state, like, had they read the letter and what did they think? So this institution, the way it works, this institution essentially had given me, not me, but in the eyes of the system, giving me back my soul.
Okay.
It had returned a piece of my humanity to me. This institution, this PWI,
right,
this privileged white institution,
right.
And so I got the drug treatment program, long story short, and was released to Crownsville out in Annapolis. But I get there, I'm the second person who's ever been there with the violent crime that I had.
Right.
And so they won't let me leave out the building like everybody else is doing and getting work and all that. They like, nope, you won't go out. Not here, you won't.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say over 20 years, because I served 20 years in the prison system, and then they held me hostage for about 7 months, 6 months, or whatever it was.
Yeah. And so, like, during that time, like, what was your feelings like then with people going out, and then like people seemingly like they're still holding something against the younger you?
At that point, honestly, I had studied my history, black history, so much that was the impetus behind why I was going to go in my room instead of go out here and work out where I could go at in the boundary. I was going to go in my room and I was going to read. And then I was going to get in the mirror and I was going to practice my dictation. Like I was going to work on being a public speaker like I wanted to be. I wanted to carry a message for voiceless people, right? And I'm telling you, when I got a no, I was at a point now where I realized I can write. Like I really can. I have affected people with my writing enough, right? Where they like, you can't go out. And I'm like, all right, no worries. No, I appreciate you. Thank you. And I would go in my room and I would write, right? And a lot of times, honestly, I would write myself. Matter of fact, one that I kept is, you said you would do something different if you knew what you knew now back then. Now you know different. So that kind of like brings me back to why I'm here and what I'm doing, and I'm not here to be looking back. I'm here to actually move on.
And so what like what's so dope about that is you graduated the other day. What was that?
I graduated last year, but we walked this year because of COVID. I earned my bachelor's degree in sociology and anthropology from Goucher, and I wrote a speech and submitted it through the auditions for commencement and won it and gave commencement this past Saturday.
Gave commencement. It's on YouTube. I watched the speech. Me and my little boy sat and watched the speech.
Yeah, I seen the clip.
And man, it was and I saw the people that they had that I'm pretty sure you were had in mind when you was writing all of that. They were showing the video clips of other people from the program, right? And man, it was deep. It was amazing. It was to me, it was a part of redemption, a path of. It wasn't just redemption. It was killing a stigma. It was showing people, putting a face and a mind on a lot of the young brothers and sisters that are out here that are misled, but showing that like that was only because there wasn't enough guidance. That was only because like systemically we might end up in these places, but if we actually are granted the opportunities as we should be, we will perform at some of the highest levels that you've ever seen, right? And so I felt like that's what that was, man. And I really want to congratulate you on that, man. That was dope. So there's the program at Goucher College, but you're wearing a shirt that says formerly, and on the back it says incarcerated. So what's that about? Why are you wearing that shirt? Where did it come from?
So again, like during my study, one of the movements that I looked at was the gay liberation movement.
Yeah.
And I saw the way the flag, their flag, right? It's like it was everywhere. To a point where people would see the flag and they might not even know what it means. But in my opinion, one of the things that the flag actually did, I mean, there's work to be done, so I'm not saying that the society's perfect, but it desensitized people to something that is too much of an occurrence for people to continue to be stigmatized about it. And so at first I was going to make the shirt just for me, and I was like, whenever I go somewhere and speak, I was realizing I was going and buying Polo, I was going and buy like all these other name brands, right? And I said, you know what, I want to get to a place where I'm wearing like my descriptor, the way somebody would read about me. And then while having that, I want them to hear from me to know like you misunderstood me or us, Indeed. Right?
Indeed.
Well, it's because there's some phenomenal people in prison.
Yeah.
So the formerly incarcerated T-shirt came about. I made 10 at first, and I remember wearing it and somebody coming up to me at Walmart, and it's a true story. A woman came up to me at Walmart and was like, "My son just came home," right? And I was like, "Wait," I was seeing something. I was like, "Wait, hold it. I want to connect with us out here that's running, like we're moving around in stealth because one, our community first and foremost don't invite us back. They don't invite us back the way we need to come back with. A lot of times, and this is something that I had to learn and experience, even our community, when we come back, don't understand what we went through or why we are the way we are. The first thing they say is, you got to do this, and you got to be like this, and you got to move like that, and you got to think like this, and you got to eat like me, because we eat fast, right? We eat fast, we constantly looking around in open spaces, we got our back on the wall. But this is a result of being conditioned.
Right.
And I'm realizing, like, wait, this is a way for me to communicate to people like me without me having to talk to everybody and ask them. And I couldn't tell you that one turned into 4 in 2 weeks' time. So I said, you know what? I sat down and talked to a few people just like me, formerly incarcerated, really dope people.
Yeah.
And I said, man, I want to make this shirt.
Yeah.
But I don't want to make the shirt. I don't want to put any logo on it, right? Because I don't care if somebody duplicates the shirt.
Sure.
My goal is to make this shirt as prevalent in society as the gay liberation flag, right? To the point where people realize, like, the neighbor that you just so love, who's so good in the community, also been there.
Sure.
But you won't know that because we're having to hide that and be stealth and be in the closet, and then that has personal like health effects on us, right? The stigmas of the Scarlet F, right? I mean, granted, criminal justice reform and formerly incarcerated and all that stuff is sexy now, but if it's you, just like black skin, right? Black skin is celebrated all over the world and everybody's trying to mimic it. But when you wear it, it don't hit the same.
That's right.
Right? When it's you. So
that's right.
So I went and I took some funds that I had and did 50 shirts and said, you know what, the shirts cost $9 to me. I'm gonna sell the shirts for $25. Every time I sell 2 shirts, that's a money order, right? We're gonna send a money order in prison because it's for promotion, not profit, right? And we wanna promote lives of formerly incarcerated and incarcerated people. So I had people calling me like, oh, can you send me some money? And I know it's package time. I know commissary is expensive and the prices are crazy. So I'm like, you know what? It's too many people that I met in this time, in 20 years, to send everybody $50 out of my pocket, and I don't even have it. And so I created a way to make the money orders without me having to go and work and make the money orders. And so I had a couple individuals reach out to me like, bro, I want to duplicate the shirt because I had put it out there. Like, please duplicate it, right? And so I do know at least one individual has duplicated some shirts, a really dope experience. I'm at Mondawmin Mall, right? I'm walking through Mondawmin and I see the shirt. But me, I know I didn't sell him the shirt because I keep a spreadsheet on my phone, right? Because I learned the importance of data collection and keeping your own data, right? Like, we're not giving that to people to go and get money to the exclusion of, and then try to make us feel like we ain't worth nothing, but you need our data to drive your funding. Man, get out of here with that. So I knew I didn't have them in the spreadsheet. And I think now I got over 80 people on this spreadsheet that I personally sold a shirt to.
And it's like going across the country. It ain't just.
Oh yeah, for sure. We got shirts in Atlanta, California, Ohio now, New York.
And it's still
Florida.
going on, right?
Well, only because I started focusing on studying for grad school.
You got a lot going on.
Because I needed to take the GRE, I needed to do these things, right? And so I kind of like put it on hold. But me personally, like, I still wear the shirt, and if someone calls me, so I do have some pink ones. I'm ready to roll out. Because a sister reached out to me and was like, and granted, I'm a sociologist and I wanted to challenge her on that. I'm also in a space where whatever somebody wants to be, that's okay, right? Whatever you need, that you feel like you need, that's okay. Like, I don't have to be in control of that, right? So I'm doing the shirts now. I still have the black ones in all sizes. And I keep them because as I'm still connecting with people and meeting people like, yo, send me some shirts. Just sent the guy some shirts in Cincinnati, matter of fact. And but I've moved to a place where I'm not charging for the shirts right now. And that's only because I don't want people giving me their money and then I'm like, well, I haven't sent the money in. Like, it was so much going on, right? And there's a lot of moving parts with that piece, with getting money into the prison and all that. So if somebody contacts me, I'll send them the shirt, and the only thing I need in return is for that individual to, one, send me a picture in the shirt, and then share with me, like, what it feels like to come out for them, right? Because it's like coming out, right? Can you imagine, like I wore it to an interview. I didn't get the job. I don't care, because now I'm in a place where I don't even need the job.
That's right.
I wore it to an interview. I didn't care at the time, because somebody referred me. And full disclosure, I forgot I had the shirt on. Right? And so the guys, like, after the interview, the guys, like, what are you formerly? And it's at a paint shop. You know, it was at an auto body paint shop. I know how to paint cars. So he was like, what are you formerly? And I was like, huh? He was like, what are you formerly? I was like, oh, man. Incarcerated. And I just saw his eyes get big, right? And I'm like, here we go again. Right? Man. You can't even paint cars and have made a really bad decision. So that's what the shirts are. I wear them now when I'm doing policy. I was on a meeting earlier today and had the shirt on.
So y'all hear that? Formerly incarcerated. If you need the shirts, look him up. We'll give his Instagram, Facebook, and all that at the end. So what else you got going on? Because one of the things that stick out, that always sticks out for me, is you brought attention to the word agency. I never looked at agency the same after you explain what agency is and why we need it as a people. And I think the conversation was, I think it was, no, it's not that. It might not be empowerment. That's all fine. but I need my agency back. So like let's talk a little bit about what that is, agency.
Mm-hmm.
Agency, what does that mean to you?
So again, due to my, studying the ancestors in slavery, one of the things that I realized or learned reading different slave writings, not the narratives written from them, but their actual poems and so on and so forth, all slaves didn't rebel the same way.
Right.
So all slaves didn't kill their masters. And I owe what sent me down that rabbit hole to a really dope professor out of Harvard University. She now works at the Smithsonian Museum in D.C., Sion Walde Michael. And I say her name because she's dope, right? And she brought this to my attention, like, because at that point I was like, man, why we just don't go to war? Ain't nothing going to change if we don't go to war.
Right.
And she was like, can you imagine being born into slavery, right? And then going through the migration, the Trail of Tears, being led to the southern states, the more oppressive states. Can you imagine like how afraid a slave might be and what the smallest act of resistance, like a small act of resistance they did, how that could be compared to some in another place, some really big act,
right,
and it'd be bigger, right? So like they broke tools, they slowed down productions. At least one slave, Mary Prince, she knew that the neighbor was gonna rape her, so she allowed herself to be in a vulnerable position for him to do what was in him to do to her, right? And this European neighbor rapes her. She gets pregnant, and she saw having the baby and have her master believe the baby was his from him raping her as her act of resistance, as in that, right? So agency for me is like doing whatever you have and your ability to do to resist the outside push and pull of the universe, whatever it is, right? And it varies from place to place. So for me, and I do this, I'm dead ass, I do this. Sometimes I might slow production, right? Like somebody, again, depending on how it's going, I'm not being compensated in this space. I'm not being fairly talked about or talked to,
sure,
right? I'm not going to physically fight you.
Sure.
I'm not even going to disrespect you and call you out your name.
Sure.
You waiting on what from me? Check it again.
That's right.
I thought I sent it.
Right.
And so, in that way, it's like, yeah, I know some people would probably be like, oh, he's just an asshole. Like, no, honestly, that's what I have in my power. One, I know how easy it is for me to go back to prison. So I know a person doesn't even have to really make any really big allegation against me, right? And so, like, agency is like knowing that I am a person who can affect change at any level.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I think for me, I'm thinking about the big tape, right? But just day by day. So I don't celebrate Thanksgiving.
Okay.
That's a personal thing. I don't get on any social media or any rant. They don't do it. Don't go and spend your money. But for me personally, it's like that's the celebration of a massacre. I'm personally not going to do it. Right?
Yeah.
Me personally, like, and if it's for anybody else, then you have it.
Right.
I'm not gonna go raid the ham line and throw all the hams away. You know what I mean? And so, agency is that piece of us that it can lay dormant, but it doesn't die. Like it transitions when our souls leave our body. The thing that we keep is agency, because no one else has access to it. You know what I mean? It won't die. It won't go away. It's, it's the energy that drives us.
So basically, much of the work you're doing is to also help people to recognize that they already have agency,
Facts.
but this is how you tap into it, or this is how you use it. It's
Facts.
there. Yeah.
And
So-
it might vary.
Yeah.
Like I might use it one way, you might use it another way.
Yeah.
I really like you can really see it in black women, right?
Okay.
Like, so I know of a woman, a black woman who went and got her body done, right? Respectfully. And she made a bunch of money and then used the money to start a business, right? And I thought, like, man, wow. Society seeks to make her an object to be lusted after. for free.
Mm-hmm. Keep talking.
She found a way to disconnect the idea from people actually entering her in a reality, sold it as a dream, and then built one. Like that, to me, that's fascinating. It could also be witnessed in, like, people who are done wrong who go on to do good things for other people.
Right.
Because you could absolutely go into your shell and be angry about something. You could seek revenge and blood and all that. Or you could decide, like, you know what? I know we got reason to be mad. We got reason to retaliate. I'm going to do it different.
Right.
Like, that's a personal choice. Like, that's yours. Like, nobody gets to have access to that, man.
Right. Right.
And I don't care if I never have another dollar after today.
Right.
I bet you this. I'll have agency whether I'm homeless or in a mansion.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, if my ancestors weren't changed without real last names, no land to call home, and had it, who less?
Mm.
Who less, man? And it comes off to people different ways, right?
Yeah.
But I know what I'm doing. You don't have to know what I'm doing.
Right. That's right.
You don't have to know what I'm doing. It's easier for somebody to attach labels like, oh, he's lazy, or he's this, or he's that. And for me, I'm very much not a lazy person in my mind.
Right.
Right? And what I'm with, guess what I'm going to do? The things that I fully support, I'm going to do them.
Mm.
And the things I don't do, it ain't always like I don't want to do them. It's like there's something about it that I disagree with, but I know my voice won't weigh in and make any real change in that process. Therefore, I'm going to do nothing. Steve Jobs said it, and he's a genius. That, he's quoted as a genius. He said in his book that sometimes the most revolutionary thing we could do is nothing, and he's heralded as an icon. I actually act on a thought like that, and I'm a bum.
Yeah. If people wanted to follow you, get in contact with you, what's some of the ways that they could get in contact with you?
I'm on Instagram, so it's Hussein396. Hussein is my Muslim name, so it's Husayn 396, because they were the three events that shaped my life. They unfolded in 1996. Facebook is William Freeman. I think when I first tried to start that, I started like 3 accounts by mistake. But you'll see the picture and know which one is me. One has no face, and the other one I don't use. You'll see it. And outside of that, you can shoot me an email. I'm getting better with those.
Yeah.
So my personal email is freemanwilliam822@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Real quick, tell folks what your concentration for your master's degree, once you enter into the program at Johns Hopkins.
Right.
What's your concentration going to be?
I want to study and come up with initiatives to reduce gun violence in the city of Baltimore. And it's 2 phases to what I want to do. I don't just want to look at the gun in the hands of an individual who is hurting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's been ignored by society. I actually want to follow the travel of the gun, and how many, and quantitatively, because some folks want to hear numbers. Tell a story about the trail of tears of a gun, right? We know all too well what the trail of tears is of our people. What is it of a gun, or any dozen, or 200, or 1,000 guns? What is it? And do we want to know that? You know what I mean?
The man is, if this ain't redemption, I don't know what it is, man. Like, that's why, one of the reasons why I respect the brother so much. But look, man, I appreciate you stopping by as the guest OG. You could come by anytime, chop it up with us anytime. But look, that's the show. I'm John P. Comer. This is the organizer and the OG. Today we have William Freeman. Be safe out there.